growing 1% each day, the compound effect in science and life.
But today we'll be talking about growth and what it takes to grow and what it means to grow. Focusing in on 1%. If you have 1% growth every day, then you will grow tremendously, exponentially. It kind of compounds. I know it's a cliche. You hear that all the time. That if you're just growing 1%, progress is important. Progress is this. But it truly compounds. 1% growth, it really does add up. And this is across all aspects of life. Not just in the laboratory setting, but across everything. Your fitness, your health, your profession, anything. If you can continuously see 1% growth, then you are going to continually get better. Honestly, it doesn't even take 1%. 0.1% is good enough. It's good to, it's one of those things, aim for the stars, you might end up on the moon kind of thing. You want to shoot further than expectations. So 1% is a good goal to have. Because in my opinion, 0.1% is good enough. It'll get you there. And I believe this is for all domains. But I'm going to focus in primarily on the laboratory setting. So, I know a lot of you guys in here are probably care more about the lab side than business or anything like that. So we're going to focus in on laboratory setting today. So 1% growth. Where can you improve your laboratory 1% daily? Now, there are a ton of aspects that laboratory, as you analytical processes that can all be improved. I think it's important that the concept of rising tides raises all ships. So if you can improve one aspect, one area, it's gonna improve. You're gonna see the ripples in the rest of your areas. So instead of trying to spread yourself thin, I think it's important to just focus in on one area and try to improve on that. Focus is entirely important, because if you're trying to do too much, you will burn out your staff, you'll burn yourself out, and you'll just get bogged down in what's priority and what's not priority. Literally, priority means first. Priority. So you're choosing what is the most important. So choose one. Choose one area where you feel you can strengthen your laboratory. Whether that be pre-analytical, analytical, or post-analytical. Some examples for where you can make improvements at are, in pre-analytical, you can improve the way you accession. You can try to explore barcodes. If you don't have a barcode reader, you don't have a barcode printer, you can explore that concept. Most labs have that. I mean, if you're sitting there doing handwritten, then that sucks. If you are in a high production laboratory, it's not even possible to have things handwritten. But maybe if you're a lower volume, maybe you have. I've definitely been part of labs that only do handwritten. Specifically, usually smaller forensic laboratories. That might be instances where that happens. But in a larger production clinical setting, definitely gonna have barcodes and barcode readers. But those things can be improved. You can improve a lot of things. Your LIS system can be improved. How you intake and where you take breaks, where maybe take more breaks. Maybe you're having too much burnout from your staff. Maybe you need to explore adding more staff. I know that's the thing that I guarantee you that push back on: adding staff, adding salaries, adding payroll. Nobody wants to do that. No owner's going to really want to improve on that. But if you take the time and show where it's valuable and why you need it, then that's important. And that's part of growth also, is identifying your weaknesses, identifying where you can build better. That's part of growth. That's progress. That's something that you didn't know the day before. Knowing where your weaknesses are, probing your weaknesses, that is part of growth. That is part of figuring things out. So that is growth. That's moving in the direction towards progress. Then we have analytical. Maybe expanding your test menu. Maybe balancing out the way your extraction process goes. Maybe how you process samples. Like maybe whenever you're running stuff, maybe that can be balanced out better. Cross training. Cross training is a huge thing, because if you have you have multiple assays and only one person knows how to do each one, then you're relying on those people. And if they leave, if they have to go on vacation, or if they're some kind of paternity leave, if they're gone for a period of time, permanently, temporarily, then you're kind of stuck. And it creates kinks in your process. It creates kinks in your system, and it's no fun. So it's important to have cross training. That's part of growth. Cross training, expanding your laboratory, your personnel's capabilities. That is growth. That is moving you in the direction for better quality assurance, better efficiency, and just an overall good time. So if you have the luxury of having multiple staff, cross-train. That's a huge part of growth. Establishing and planning out cross-training. If you're an analyst in a laboratory, seek to cross-train. Ask the opportunities for cross-training, because the thing is, you can't hurt yourself by learning. By expanding your capabilities, that's only going to help you. Whether it helps you in your current position or in your next one. I think a big thing is, a lot of people feel like, if I do too much, they're going to put too much on me. They're gonna make me do too much if they see that I do, and they're not going to pay me. Because that happens a lot. In a POL setting, you might not see a pay raise. POL oftentimes is basically like a little startup business. So whatever you come in salary-wise, there's a decent chance, unless the sample volume is just massive, unless there's just a ton going on, that you won't see a hefty raise for years at a time. To be honest, you'll probably see a much better raise by leaving. So if your plan is to sit there and just do the bare minimum, that's not helping anybody. And it doesn't help a startup. It doesn't help a startup in Silicon Valley. It doesn't help a startup laboratory to sit there and do the bare minimum, collect your salary, and to be on. It doesn't help you either. The whole purpose of being in a startup, being in a system like that, is to expand your knowledge and also get a little bit of paycheck. You should be trying to learn and be exposed to as much as possible in a short period of time to expand your value. And honestly, if the location you're at, the POL is not going to show you the value, it's not going to value you, then you'll have to move on. But there's no harm. It doesn't hurt you to learn more and to expand your capabilities. It only helps you, even if the place won't pay you. I mean, hopefully you're in a good place and the volume's good and they understand just how important you are and they keep you. Maybe they promote you to general supervisor. Maybe you've been around long enough that you can become technical supervisor. But guess what? You can't do all those things if you don't put the effort in, if you don't try to learn, if you don't try to grow yourself. So it's not just growing in the laboratory, you yourself should be trying to grow. And if you're sitting here and you're an analyst, you should be thinking about, how am I growing at least 1% every day? What am I contributing to myself? What am I investing in? What am I learning? What am I gaining from this? It's not just about a salary. You're not just sitting there in the laboratory to gain the salary. You should be trying to gain the knowledge and gain the experience and gain everything you need to progress yourself up, to be general supervisor, to be technical supervisor, or to get paid more in another laboratory. Maybe just the lead analyst somewhere else will get you a decent salary boost. important to continuously be trying to grow and trying to learn and trying to gather everything that you can to be better. I think it's a trap, and I think people fall into it very easily when they don't pay me enough. Oh, they don't appreciate me. Well, be very frank, no business is going to appreciate you. No laboratory is going to appreciate you. Not to the fullest. Not to what you're truly worth. I've been a part of labs that try really hard to do it, but it's hard. Because no matter what, that just like with our goals, that info, that goal line keeps extending. You make it and you're like, okay, well then we need more. We need more. And then eventually management gets fed up with that and they're like, all right, we're not giving you more. But then you go find more somewhere else if you have to. But the thing is, if you stagnate, if you don't improve your skills, then the company that you're working for isn't going to value and give you more stuff. Because why? Why should they? And if you stagnate and let your skills sit there and you don't expand on them, your next company isn't going to value it nearly as much as they would if you had invested your time and made your skills sharper, expanded your skill set. So invest in yourself. Get that 1% growth. Get cross-trained. Get documentation of the cross-training. So big thing right now is that CLIA and the accreditation bodies like COLA and CAP, specifically CLIA is actually requiring it. That's the reason why the accreditation bodies are requiring it. That you have to document your training for your previous experience. So used to be you could just submit your CV and you're like, oh, I worked at blah 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 lab for 2 years, and that used to be enough. That used to be you self-report your previous experience. Now, experience inside a laboratory is documented through training, competency, blah blah blah. All of the stuff that you do within your laboratory is documented, but your previous experience now has to be documented in some way also, whether that be a letter from your previous employer or copies of your competency documentation. Something has to be non-self-reported. So a CV or a resume is a self-report. That's self-reporting what your experience is. You have to have documentation supporting that you have this experience. So either some kind of written letter or documentation of your training. So an important thing you can ask for it, is documentation of your training. So you can get copies of your competency, you can get copies of your training. It's a good habit to, when you get trained, the laboratory has to document that. They have documentation somewhere. It's a good habit to start building your own personal, professional portfolio. So whenever you get trained in the laboratory, you should ask your trainer to provide you with copies of the training transcripts, basically. So whether that just be a simple front page, whether that be anything, some kind of documentation, so that way you can start building it. And if you start it from the beginning, if the very first time you get trained or you have your competency, you ask for that and you start compiling that portfolio, then no one's gonna really question it because you've been doing it from the beginning. You've been constantly doing it. But if you wait a year down the road, 2 years down the road to start asking for those documents, that's gonna start drawing little flags, like little red flags, little alarms are gonna start going off in the heads of upper management and be like, they might be thinking about going to another job. But if you start out that way, it's very copies of I want to build my portfolio, I want to have my trainings all documented, I want all this there, then they're going to be much less likely. It's going to be more of a oh, that's just what this person has done from the beginning, so of course we're going to do it. It's important because there are requirements. You have to have length of experience in certain aspects to become general supervisor. You have to have this length of experience to become technical supervisor. You have to have, on top of your training, on top of your education, you have to have this experience to be a general supervisor, to be a technical supervisor. And some of them have to be discipline specific. So you can't just go and say, oh, I was in a toxicology laboratory, and then translate that into microbiology. Or vice versa. You can't be in microbiology and then translate that into toxicology. You need specific training in those disciplines. That's why it's important to document and to cross-train, and then therefore document that cross-training. If you're in a reference laboratory and you happen to have the ability to have toxicology and microbiology training, take it. Get in there. If you're a toxicologist and you want to get some microbiology training, get some microbiology training. Because if you establish that you trained on it and then you've existed in that laboratory, that compiles for your experience. That builds all on each other, and that allows for you to take that to the next job. Or if you want to apply for a raise, if you want a raise, you can expand. You can have an expansion of your roles and responsibilities, maybe your title, based on your experience and what you're capable of doing. It's hugely important. I cannot stress it enough that if you are an analyst to be growing, you need to focus in on yourself and to grow. Don't worry about the laboratory. Don't worry about the not paying you. If you're in a laboratory, especially if it's your first laboratory, if it's your first time in the setting, or maybe even if it's your second time in a setting, gain the experience, gain the knowledge, gain everything you can, and don't worry about, oh, they're not paying me enough for me to do this. No, you're investing in yourself. Gain the knowledge, gain all the knowledge you can from them. Because that's how they see it. They view it as, I'm training you. And that's why they're going to pay you less. Because you don't have the huge experience. Especially if you don't have if they're not bringing you in based on experience, if they bring you in an entry-level position, or a startup-level position, or something, they're not bringing you in because you're based on your experience. They're bringing you in because of your lack of experience, and they're going to train you. They're going to pay you like they're training you. So take advantage of that. They're training you. The way they see it is they're giving you, they're paying a discounted rate because they're investing in you to train you and hoping that you're going to stay. So make it worth it for you. You take all those skills. You absorb everything and take every opportunity you can to gain and to grow. And then if they say, no, we're not going to give you a raise, then take your experience, take your stuff, and go somewhere else. Because they took the risk of not paying you. They took the risk of investing in you and then not paying you. That's their problem. It's your problem if you don't take advantage of the opportunity. If you don't take advantage of the training opportunities and the ability to learn, that's on you. And you can't be upset when you're stuck in that position and they're not giving you a raise and no one else wants to give you a raise. No one else wants to take you in because you haven't expanded your knowledge. You haven't proven that you can do these things, and you can learn, and you can apply what you've learned, because you haven't learned it. You haven't taken the opportunity. So you gotta put it in. Gotta put in that work. Take advantage. Grow every single day. Because very frankly, at some point, when you're in a laboratory, if you're in a big laboratory, or even if you're in a small laboratory, it almost doesn't matter. In some aspect, in some shape or form, they're not going to care about your growth anymore. If it doesn't impact them, if they don't get an advantage from it, they're not going to care that you're growing or not growing. It's all on you. So grow. Take advantage of the opportunities. If they need it, they'll expand on you. If you have a good manager, the thing is, it depends on how the levels of opportunities you have is based on the levels of the hierarchy of your system. If you don't have a technical supervisor or a lab director who's very hands-on, then to be honest, you might be at the mercy of a manager. You might be at the mercy of whatever they're going to be wanting to be done. But if you have a good supervisor, a good direct report, then they're going to want to make you better. They want to make your skills sharper. Take advantage of that. They can't give you the pay raise. Typically, those supervisors, they can submit for your pay raises, but they're not in control of that. They don't get to choose the number system. They don't get to choose any of that stuff. But what they can do is they can give you opportunities for knowledge and opportunities for growth. And a good supervisor, a good manager will do that. They'll provide you those opportunities because they know that that's the best bet for you to have a chance at growing within the system, or to go somewhere else and get a good raise. But very frankly, at some point, upper management, they're not going to want you to grow. Because if you grow, then they have to pay you. Or you run a risk of losing you. I don't want that. Neither one of those options are great. So if at some point, they're actually de-incentivized to progress your career, to progress your knowledge. So you have to push forward. You have to continuously try to grow. Because you're the one who wants to move up. Because they probably have a general supervisor. If they don't, that's even more reason for you to learn and to apply your knowledge, because then you can become a general supervisor. Somebody has to be general supervisor in the laboratory. If there's a possibility that technical supervisors performing both those roles. There's a possibility that lab directors performing all those roles. And maybe they don't have time to effectively perform them. They could be tasked with them, they could be delegated to them, but they're not really performing. Maybe you're doing all the work and someone else is getting the title for it. So, go out there, grow, take on every freaking opportunity that you can. Because guess what? Nobody cares. Nobody else is going to care as much as your personal development as you. That's it. You're the only one who can strive and push forward. And do it, very frankly, do it for yourself. Don't do it for, oh, they're going to give me a raise. Don't do it for, oh, they're going to show me appreciation. Oh, they're going to be so happy I did this. No. They might. It could happen. But don't do it for those reasons. Do it because you want to grow. That's what you should be doing it for. You should be growing every day, taking every opportunity you can.